You can grow with a limited budget. I've worked with franchisors that were just starting, that had 2 or 3 franchisees. Outsourcing with the right business brokers is a great thing to do, especially with one that you can build a relationship with that knows your model. I think that PR is the most, a lot of folks when they're planning their budgets don't focus enough on PR. That is a big part of it. People, I strive to make my brand hot, and I believe that Red Mango and Pinkberry made the yogurt category hot, and then everybody else jumped on. We used at Red Mango BizCom, which is here Dallas based, and they work with a lot of different brands. They also just worked with the Dwyer Group with Dina going to be on Undercover Boss, if y'all haven't seen that, and different things. And we really pitch stories, marketed, whether it be a deep dive in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if that's a market that you're going to go, whether we're going to do at Red Mango, we call them red carpet events. We bring people in and have a mini discovery day type thing, rooms like this. And we did a lot of PR, and not just the business publications, not just the daily newspaper, but local newsletters, local business things and so forth. And PR, and the numbers at the end of my presentation represent what we did in 2010 at Red Mango in that aspect. So that was a big, big part of it. You got to invest correctly. Because I looked at what this other brand, which I'm not affiliated with at all, that invested $1.2 million, and they invested a lot of their money in areas that did not bring any results. And with technology today, you can pretty much track where your leads are coming from, or more importantly, where your sales are coming from. And so a lot of brands will spend money incorrectly. They think, well, the internet is the way to go, which it is, but it depends on, if you go invest in a lot of franchise portals, it's not the right piece. At Red Mango, we did a lot of online, but it was all pay per click. We only invested in one franchise portal, which was the IFA's website, and everything else was pay per click. And we actually targeted that by DMA or by state. So we didn't do nationwide, and we actually had a budget each month, so when we hit that, we could bring it down and so forth. You can really monitor that. And plan by region or investment. So, when I looked at taking the opportunity at Fazoli's, as a brand that was a part of a turnaround. They hadn't been growing in almost 8 years. At one time, they had over 400 locations. They closed the lot. They have 225 locations now. They brought in a new CEO in 2008 and began to turn around that model. The good thing with that model was they had 100+ locations that they own and operate. So they're the largest franchisee. Their average unit volumes are very good. Their franchisees, they own the other 100 locations that they have left, are very solid franchisees. So it was time to grow. But with that category, there's a lot of brands, a lot of opportunities out there. One of the things that we're doing with that is, and I'll just tell you, is we're going after, there's a lot of brands out there that have real estate that's not performing to the level anymore. And they own the real estate. So they can flip that to a Fazoli's-like brand, cheaper than their franchisor may be requiring them to remodel it for, and get a lift in sales by quite a bit. So that's an area we're going after, is conversions in that aspect. Also non-traditional. Everybody's trying to get in non-traditional, but I would tell you it's a slow road if you don't have non-traditional locations right now. And licensing in that area, I love it. It's very profitable, but it took 3 years to get really established in that area with Red Mango. Now they probably have 20 or 30 locations in that area, I think. But it took probably 18 months to get the first one out. And I think that at Fazoli's now, before I joined, they started going down that road. We have about 9 months under our belt. Just because you sign an agreement with a Sodexo or HMS Host doesn't mean they're going to open one right away. You may get the license agreement signed, and then it may be 6, 12 months. And if you're putting resources towards that, and you're wanting to return that year on that investment, whether it be travel, heads, and so forth, you're not going to necessarily get it that year. If you're going after licensing, it's a 3-year plan versus franchising. So we can talk about that more later and so forth with that aspect. It goes back to having the right team to support the growth. Fazoli's, for example, has nobody in place. They basically shut down their franchising department. Red Mango had nobody. Even when I went on board at Dunkin' Brands, they hadn't been franchising Baskin-Robbins domestically in almost 8 years at that time, and we started from scratch. And it took, so I think that, are you in a position, and a good friend John Hayes always talks about marketing, you're in the business of capturing and retaining customers. Marketing gets the phone to ring, and then what they experience through the sales process gets them to sign or not. If you don't have your best foot forward, meaning a franchising website, I remember in the days when we send out what we call the #1 packet at Dwyer Group, and we'd mail it out, and we'd wait a week, and then we'd call them. Today, I view the website as our print material. I hardly ever print a brochure. I have a little brochure that the very few trade shows will do, because if I have to have printed material, I actually steer it towards the meeting I'm going to. If I'm going to meet with a large franchisee of another brand, I basically put together a presentation for that person, one-on-one. So you really put your messaging all together on your website and in that aspect. And then the sales team. There could be a lot of good franchise salespeople out there that are exactly what it says, salespeople. I personally get turned off when I hire somebody that's really the car salesman type person. Franchising is a relationship. It is a process. They really are a facilitator. It is step by step, and you basically inspect the steps. So really having somebody, and just because they were very successful at another brand doesn't mean they're going to be successful at your brand. They may come from a totally different industry, and I've actually recruited people that have had no experience, and I had the time and to train them. But a lot of brands, it's like NFL coaches. You don't have time. If you don't win the Super Bowl in the first 2 years, you're gone. And that's the same way with franchising folks. But I like to attract people that have experience, but from other industries in franchising and things of that nature as well. So right team in place. And do you have the correct requirements? I think that it means a lot to your franchise candidate when you truly have them go through a step-by-step process, and meaning that you check their credit, you check their criminal backgrounds, you verify their assets that they send to you, you really go through with that piece of it. And we can talk more about that process later. And I require every potential franchisee to submit a business plan. Business plan does a couple of things. One, it makes sure that they really understand how they're going to run the business. I know how they're going to run the business. It also helps us a lot of times down the road if we begin to do litigation with them, and you have a business plan on file saying they were going to do this, they're going to do that, and they didn't actually do any of that piece of it. So it helps in two different ways there. How I measure success is simply qualified leads. Dave talked about it. You get suspects and things of that nature. I don't care how many leads I get. I really care about qualified leads. And qualified lead is somebody that actually takes the time to either call me or email me, but actually tells me they have the money to do it. Now, I hadn't verified it yet, but they basically filled out a short form, said they had the money. And I get on the phone, and then, or my team would do an intro call. At the end of that, we know whether we had a qualified lead or not, and then we're going to the next process. At Red Mango, I really gauged it in 3 areas: qualified leads, qualification packages submitted, and business plans submitted. We knew at 1 out of 2.5 or 3 qualification packages that were submitted, we had a franchise sale. That's where we got the number to. When I built the plan, I built it out about 1 out of 8, and we were getting 1 out of 3. And our qualification package was pretty detailed, so and they had to submit Social Security, agree to criminal background checks, and so forth. Business plans, basically, if they submitted that, that's pretty much going to be a done deal with that. The normal discovery days or face-to-face meetings were pretty average industry, 50 to 75%, depending on the prospect and so forth with that aspect. The breakdown of the national expansion we did in 2010. And we're real proud of it, is we were below industry average in a big way. I talked about the company earlier that cost $20,000 to attract a franchisee, but what they looked at is it only cost them about $4,000 per unit, because they had 5 units per deal. Red Mango's was the same way. We sold about